Oh, I've really missed this. Welcome back to another episode of Digging Deep. It is so lovely to have you. Boy, have I missed y'all. And by y'all, I mean the two people that listen to this thing, which is probably just me and me on another device. But hey, you know what? If I can help someone else out in the world, I am going to do that. I have very clearly not posted in, I think, the longest I've ever gone without posting on here since I've started, which it's almost a 2-year anniversary. It'll be July 1st of this year, which is insane to think about, just the amount of growth that I've done and hopefully the amount of growth that I've helped either assist you in or just hold your hand in. But the reason why I've been gone for so long is very connected to today's message. And today we are talking all about burnout, talking about how unsubscribing from hustle culture, embracing your internal winter, going at your own pace, the pace of life, the way things were meant to be experienced and taken slowly instead of rushed, which is the way that the world convinces us we need to do it. That is the most productive thing you can do for yourself. And yeah, we're going to get into lots of it. And I already know this is going to be such a long episode just because I have so much to say and I really have missed this. And it's been eclipse season, full moon. There's a full moon this Friday. There's just a lot. I've been contemplating my life, where I want it to go. How have I been getting in my own way? Ways that I'm sabotaging myself without even realizing it. How am I unconsciously standing in my own way of my dreams? What are my dreams? Does that look like something that the world wants for me to do, or is that something that I have to resign myself from, close my eyes and my ears, and lock into my own internal voice? And a lot of just contemplating, but also a lot of coming home to myself, a lot of returning, a lot of realizing that the world takes so much from us, and the least we can do is give a little bit back to ourselves, at the very least. We deserve it. Not only do we deserve it, but we desperately need it. So I hope that this episode can serve as that invitation for you to come home to yourself, but also as just a beautiful reminder that you're never, ever alone in anything that you go through. We are all, sorry, my camcorder just turned off. We are all truly trying our best, and a lot of times our best looks like just existing and getting through the day. But I really want us to be able to learn how to live and not just have life pass us by, but feel like we're active participants in that. So it is time to dig deep. The lessons from this are ones that I'm not completely new to. The lessons that came up during this heightened period of anxiety and burnout and also freeze, which we'll get into, are ones that I experienced almost exactly a year ago, which is insane. I don't know what was happening astrologically at that time, but this one came up for me in a very chaotically yet poetic way. So I had recently gotten back from a trip with my best friends, and it was such a healing trip and such a coming of age trip. I had many moments where I just felt like I was removing my perfectionism and need to be a certain way and just living and embracing who I am, which I'm so grateful for. But once I got back from that trip, literally the second I got back, I was bombarded with to-do lists, have-tos, need-tos, checklists, these things that I needed to get done, and there was little to no room for me to actually live my life. And that's kind of been the pace of my life for quite a while now, honestly, of just me working, trying to get from one thing to the next. I've talked about this in a lot of my episodes, but in high school, my original path was to be a nurse. I built my whole life around that identity and achieving that thing. And then this time last year, funny enough, I got a position working at my dream job, or so I thought. And once I got that job and was working it for a little bit, it was night shifts in a NICU in a really good place. The thing that I thought I wanted for my whole life, I got it. And then I realized that I didn't want it anymore. And so I shifted careers, the one thing that I said I would never do. I unintentionally took a gap year off of school. I went to community college, another thing I said I would never do. All of these things just piled on, and I feel like I'm getting away from the original point of me telling this. But basically what I'm saying is that I have just been go, work, and simultaneously trying to not go insane, trying to figure out who I really am outside of who society tells me I should be or expects me to be, figuring out what I really want from life, allowing myself to change and change my mind. Oh, I just need a deep breath because it's a lot, and I can feel my chest getting tight talking about it. It's a lot. And I can get in my head about it a lot of times, and I'm getting emotional, which means that I'm talking about something that means something. But I get emotional and I get overwhelmed by it a lot of times because it is a lot. Point blank period. Figuring out who you are, what you want to do with your life is no easy task. And I'm just grateful, though, to be able to experience all the things that I have and to teach me the things that they have brought up for me. And even if that means going over the same lesson over and over again, many, many times in different forms. So, as I was mentioning, I just got in this very, not even comfortable, honestly, but just this familiar loop of being go, 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 always having something to be working towards. But even with me working towards it and doing so much and leaving little to no time for myself, still weirdly feeling like I'm not enough. An insane concept. But this time last year, I was working, I left that, and then I had a crash out with an edible. It did It did exaggerate the experience that I was having. However, I think it just heightened an awareness in my body of anxiety that I've never had, and that caused me to have like a prolonged panic attack. I was trying to release episodes at this time last year when it was happening, and I released just one called Ride the Wave, and I can't listen to it because it makes me really sad, because I was genuinely like, I had never felt that low in my life before. But that experience in itself of just my body basically shutting down, feeling numb from my body, and calling out of work, removing myself from these requirements and these pulls from the world, allowed me to just be present in what was happening in my body. And it taught me a lot. And even though I thought I absorbed those lessons and I really did grow from that experience, also another thing that came out during that time was Inside Out 2, which is one of the most incredible films to ever grace this earth, teaching us about anxiety in a very digestible form. Cannot recommend that enough. But even with me feeling like I had such a grasp on it at the time and like I mastered it, flash forward to not even a year later, the similar symptoms came up. It was in a different form, but I just recently had an experience where when I got back from that trip, as I mentioned, again, my body was just so numb and removed from any sense of feeling or connectedness to my mind, body, and soul. And it's so normalized for people, and I do this too, but just to be so used to feeling that way and used to feeling out of touch with your body and just go, 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 that you really don't even give yourself space to recognize how dysregulated and disconnected you are. I joke about this all the time, but feeling like I'm in NPC mode. And yes, it's funny to laugh about and relate to with your friends, but that's not how we were supposed to be. We are not machines. We are not supposed to be moving at the speed of technology. We are not supposed to be producing and not feeling. We are almost exactly like plants and nature, which means we must be nurtured and we must be giving ourselves water and space to grow, and that means embracing our slow seasons, embracing times when we lose all of our leaves, but knowing that losing those leaves allows there to be room for us to grow new ones. I just think that, every crash out, every breakdown is also just a breakthrough, and again, life gives you the same lessons in different forms because it's trying to remind you that, hey, this is something important you need to pay attention to. And so my understanding and kind of process of working through burnout is something that is a little bit more recent. I've had little tastes of it, like I said last year, of just really being reminded that I need to slow down if I want to have longevity and have health in the future. And that has just been repeated in this current cycle of my life. And a big reason why I took time off of the podcast, and I've said this in so many episodes, probably almost every one of them, is just the fact that I, need to be present for my life in order to be able to absorb all the lessons to their fullest extent and then give it out to other people. But I also just don't resonate with the current culture of content creation, social media, where again, you are a machine. You are trying to maximize the amount of platforms that you put your content out on, and you're trying to maximize the amount of wisdom, even if it's just half-assing a message. As long as you get the video out, as long as you get clicks and likes, that's not what I'm here for. That has not ever been my purpose, but I do feel very, very called to speak, and that is speaking on my own terms. I literally changed the bio during this whole, I took a year off and I'm back, bitches. Not really a year back, but isn't that a funny sound? I think it is. I'll have to find it. But anyways, in me taking a break and removing myself from this, unintentionally too, I just needed it, truly for myself. But with me removing myself, like I literally changed the bio of the podcast to say new episodes when it's aligned. Not new episodes every week because I can't guarantee that. Not new episodes on a certain day because I can't guarantee that. And I'm sorry, but that's how it has to be for me. And if that's not what you want out of this, I'm sorry, but this may not be the right place to look. But I promise that my episodes, when they do come out, will be of value because it is something that I deeply poured into and really took the time to nurture and make sure that I'm giving advice that I actually take. And that's another thing. I had to really take the advice before I gave it. I have put this into practice, and these habits that I'm going to tell you that have helped me, one, are not completely brand new, but I've heard enough people say it to be like, there's a common theme here. Maybe I should try that. And in trying, I've realized that they're life-changing. So I have so much to say, and I am really grateful that I feel overwhelmed by all the things that I have to say, but bear with me if I stumble over my words. That's part of life. That's just what happens when you talk. And sometimes you don't say everything correctly, but the point still stands. I haven't done this much journaling, I don't think ever, with me feeling my feelings of burnout. So I feel like I'm beating around the bush. I kind of gave you context, but for a little bit more in depth. So I got back from my trip. I immediately rushed into my work schedule with teaching, working my second job, and being in school. And it's a lot, not only mentally, physically. I'm always exhausted. I'm always tired. I feel like I always have more things to do, but yet the things that I do get done, I feel like I'm not doing them to their fullest extent. Just a lot. And so not only was I physically sick because I work with children and it was flu season and it was also just the end of the year. I should have been in hibernation, but I was go. So not only was I physically sick and just my body was fighting genuinely an infection, like fever symptoms, sneezing, sore throat, coughing, all of that, but I was mentally beyond sick and beyond the point of I can't do this anymore, beyond the point of if I keep going, this is not going to end well. And I took time off of work, and then I took more time off of work because I still didn't feel good. And it ended up with me being, that's another thing. Not only did I take time off, but it was spring break. So I took time off from one job just to work extra at the other job. And I realized, hey, that's not going to work. My body and mentally, I couldn't physically bring myself to get out of bed most days. And that just led to me being very introspective. And I say that I had very similar symptoms to last year when I had the surge of anxiety, because I had time to slow down and I had time to actually let my body feel and communicate with me. There's this mentality of maybe if I just keep going and never stop, maybe if I just keep go, maybe if I just keep filling my calendar with things to do, maybe if I don't give myself time or space or the awareness to even recognize that there's a problem, maybe it will magically heal itself and go away and stop hurting or stop nudging at me to feel it. Life will always give you an experience that draws you back to yourself and that makes you slow down. If you do not take the signs, the little signs that it gives you to slow down and feel what needs to be felt and work through that and understand your body, life is going to do it in a way that you probably didn't want and you didn't like, and you're probably going to view it as an inconvenience. I want to be making money. I feel like that's a very human thing that we have been constructed to desire because money fuels the lifestyle that we want to live. But I desperately needed to choose between making money or preserving my mental health. And I am at the point in my life where if it costs me my inner peace, or if it costs me a sane mental state or a calm nervous system, I'm not paying that price, because this is my vessel, this is my home. I'm a living, breathing life. I'm a soul. And if someone wants to take that from me, it's not theirs to have. This is what I'm meant to protect, and if that means saying no and disappointing some people or missing out on certain opportunities, I'm going to do that because it honors myself, and I should not feel guilty about that. And neither should you. Like I said, I haven't journaled this consistently in a long time because usually I don't make the time, or I genuinely just don't have it because I have so many other things on my to-do list. But there were so many just healing entries from this period. Mind you, this is still something that I'm actively moving through. Like, this all happened start of March. The first entry was from March 2nd, and that was the start of just so much self-reflection. And I think it's just crazy how much we can grow in such a short amount of time. I want to read you some of what I wrote because I think vulnerability is the portal to connection, and if I can help anybody feel less alone by saying what I felt honestly, then I want to do that. Like, I really, really do. And yeah, it can be a little scary to pour your heart out. It can be a little scary to pour your heart out, but also I think that's why we were here. And I'm also just reawakening to that fact alone. Like, my soul was put here to live truly and freely and vulnerably and authentically to my being, and to share that with the world in hopes of healing other people. So much. Okay, let me find what entry I want to share. I'm just going to read you the whole entry because I wrote these words and they matter. So, on March 2nd, I said, I feel like my body is a Bluetooth signal and I haven't been connected to it as much as I'd like to be. I feel my body has been in this perpetual state of fight or flight. I got back home from Mexico about 2 weeks ago, and from allergies to losing my connection to my senses, I felt like edible crash-out-like symptoms. Yes, I'm this cringy in my journal, as I am talking to y'all. That's just how I am. It's been scary because I don't want to get stuck feeling this way. My thoughts are all over the place, so bear with me. When I got back from the trip, I jumped right back into my crazy schedule without even a day to ease back into it. My body went from 100 miles per hour to 0 and right back to 100 again. The past few weeks, I've felt like I'm just watching my body from an outsider perspective. My sense of taste, smell, touch have been altered. This whole time, I've been feeling like I'm losing my mind, but yesterday I rediscovered a book on my stacked bookshelf all about burnout, which we will get into momentarily. This helped me find clarity in the fact that my body is actually just communicating to me that I need to slow the fuck down. I'm listening to the Spiraling Higher podcast episode all about unsubscribing from hustle culture. I've been thinking back to my anxiety scare from last summer, and I literally cured it by hopping right back into a crazy busy schedule which didn't address the root of the problem. I think the only way to stop operating from a place of adrenaline is to literally break the habit of being myself. If I want new results, I have to establish new systems. Systems out of love and care for my health and longevity. The podcast described it like a GPS not registering a new address. Sometimes your brain won't register new pathways because it hasn't walked down them before. I'm also hyper aware of the fact that I don't want to be reliant on others. Like, I love community, but I want to be self-reliant. I have to be. It's going to take a rewiring of what I know. The podcast just described it as a plant being in an environment without light. I would have to create the conditions to thrive. Create the conditions to thrive. That starts with you understanding and recognizing that you're not okay. So if you're here and you're learning more about burnout, that is a beautiful step in the right direction of you just understanding what is going on internally for you, and then that helps you move through it in a way that doesn't carry shame or doesn't carry this deep health anxiety, like fear of there being a bigger issue, because a lot of the self-help culture and just our general like health advice doesn't address stress. A big way to heal stress is being able to feel it first. So let's talk about what burnout is. A lot of the things that I'm going to be referencing come from the book Burnout, The Secret of Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. It is a beautiful book. I just recently started it during this time, like I mentioned in that entry. Like, I don't know what clicked, or I do know it's the universe that put that in my line of consciousness and stream of consciousness. Line of sight, stream of consciousness. There we go. But it was the universe that helped me become aware of this again, because I've had this book for who knows how long. Did I read it? No. But the universe was like, girl, this will help you. And I've barely gotten to the second chapter, but even just with that, so much has been already helping me move through burnout. And this, I just want to preface that I'm not a master at this. I still have so much to learn. This is going to be a lifelong learning and unlearning and just awareness. But I also think that there is value in speaking about it while you're in it. And there's this quote from Little Women that will always stick with me. It is with Joe and Amy. There's Beth there. Yeah. No. Joe, Amy, and freak, I'm forgetting the other sister's name. This is really concerning for me. I can't remember the other sister's name, but the sister who gets married and has kids, she's there too, but she doesn't talk. Anyways, I'm painting the picture for you. There's this scene where Joe and Amy are talking about stories and writers and what it means to be important and what is of value. Joe is operating from the perspective that in order for things to be written about, they must already be important. Writing just confirms their importance, whereas Amy sees it as writing gives things their importance, taking ordinary, mundane stories of everyday people living their lives and finding beautiful meaning in that, writing about those stories, telling those stories is what gives them meaning. So this is me taking the Amy perspective, talking about my ordinary life in hopes of giving it meaning to someone, because I think it matters. But anyways, this book has been really helpful. I will be referencing it a lot. I just want you to know in general that Burnout, go get you a copy. And it is a reputable source because they have a PhD. Okay? Alrighty. In the book, burnout is described as emotional exhaustion combined with depersonalization and a decreased sense of accomplishment. This technical term was coined by Herbert Freudenberger in 1975. I hope I said his name right. And specifically these three components broken down. Emotional exhaustion is the fatigue that comes from caring too much for too long. Depersonalization is the depletion of empathy, caring, and compassion. And a decreased sense of accomplishment is an unconquerable sense of futility, feeling that nothing you do makes any difference. Burnout is a combination of all these things, and it is a general feeling of like nothing feels worthwhile, nothing feels exciting. You feel like you're just going through the motions, existing but not really living. And a lot of the times you feel very disconnected from your body, so you don't even feel like you're existing. You're just floating through space, which is such a scary thing to say, but even saying that, it doesn't truly articulate the weird feelings that come up with this. There's not much language or dialogue around burnout. It's just kind of like this hot word used, but no one really knows what it means or how to move through it. It is the kind of tired and exhaustion that not even a nap can fix. Sleep doesn't help. No matter how much sleep I got during this time, I still woke up just feeling so overwhelmed by the expectations of the world that I just wanted to sleep it off. And then I would get more sleep, wake up, still feel anxious. And it was just this loop of trying to escape my reality over and over and over again. With burnout, it's feeling like you're stuck, but you can't change your situation immediately. So you either resign and just feel helpless, or actually, I don't know if there's another option. Mainly, you just feel helpless. And when you feel helpless, you're not going to make any sort of change in your life. You're just going to surrender to whatever it is, even if that's something you don't like. And that completely paralyzes you from making any sort of positive, upward spiral in your life. To understand burnout, you also have to understand your stress. So there are two differentiating things about stress. Not only is there your stress itself, but there's your stressors. So the stressors are the things that are making you stressed. And then the stress is the physical sensation and manifestation of those stressors. For me, I'm currently living a life where I can't escape my stressors, unfortunately. I'm constantly having experiences that trigger that within me, and it's not something that I can just easily and immediately get rid of. For example, I work with children. That in itself is stressful. It's not stressful in a bad way, not stressful in a way that I don't want to be doing it because I love it, and I just think that it is such a gift to make a difference in people's lives, but it's stressful, and you're allowed to acknowledge that. That can even be correlated with being a parent. Yes, you love it, but you're also allowed to be tired and stressed. And with school, working towards a career that, hey, fun fact, while I was having this really big burnout and anxiety attack, the news is just showing that the Department of Education, the one that I'm working tirelessly and exhausting my mind and body for, is trying to be defunded and deleted from existence. Ooh! So that's really awesome, trying to deal with that as well. Just, casual things, nothing crazy. But dealing with the stress of being in school, I'm not going to give up just because it's hard, but I am, again, allowed to acknowledge that it is hard and that doing something that I want to be doing and something that I feel called to do can still be stressful. That doesn't mean that it's less meaningful, but the two can coexist and exist at the same exact time. And just working so much, I have a goal and a picture of a dream life that I want to get to. And funny enough, that dream life is a life where I don't have to work this much. Hey, who would have guessed? But right now, I'm in the current stage where I need to sacrifice for that. And for so long, I've struggled with finding a way to balance hustling, the necessary hustle for right now, and living my life. But understanding this has been really helping. So differentiating that you have your stress itself, that is the sensations, the feelings of chest tightness, of a pounding heartbeat, of fatigue, headaches, your appetite. All of those things are signs of stress. That is stress. That needs to be dealt with separately from your stressors. If you can't remove your stressors from your life, which a lot of us can't because there are always going to be things, whether they are large or more muted and unnoticeable, that are just going to trigger things within us that we can't eliminate all the time. But you do have to find ways to deal with the stress and the stressors in a day-to-day life, because your everyday life is going to have stress. No matter how conscious, how healed, how equipped you are with tools to move through them, you're always going to have to take those tools out and actually put them on the table and use them. I think it's really interesting that this is coming up for me again, because when I was in school for nursing, we learned about this, about your central nervous system and fight or flight, adrenaline, I think, yeah, and norepinephrine. I forget exactly what it does, but I'm pretty sure it is tied to stress. But as the book mentions, and as I learned in school, your body's ability to complete the stress cycle and move through phases of fight or flight is directly tied to whether or not you have chronic illnesses. And a lot of illnesses are caused by one not being able to properly complete the stress cycle and just living in this perpetual state of stress. And your body is never able to relax and recharge and go into the state of rest and digest. In the book, it says that stressors are what activate the stress response in your body. They can be anything you see, hear, smell, touch, taste, or imagine could do you harm. There are external stressors: work, money, family, time, cultural norms and expectations, experiences of discrimination, and so on. And there are less tangible, internal stressors: self-criticism, body image, identity, memories, and the future. In different ways, to different degrees, all of these things may be interpreted by your body as potential threats. This also connects to this idea of analysis paralysis that I often get caught up into, with being someone that naturally gravitates towards, I guess, more like self-help content and just like wanting to figure out how the world has failed me, women, black people in general, and wanting to move through that. I can get trapped in the idea of there's just so much to unpack. How can I possibly do anything to help and move it forward? But then my body translates that, understandably so, as stress and as a threat. And again, that's another way that our bodies can go into this perpetual state of fight or flight. Stress is the neurological and physiological shift that happens in your body when you encounter one of these threats. It's often described, and I heard this in school and also in the book, in terms of stress moving through fight or flight, as when an animal is being chased by a predator. Their body goes into fight or flight. It decides whether or not they can fight, if it is in their best interest to fight back, and that'll guarantee their survival or give them a better chance of surviving, or should they run, flee the scene, hide, duck, take cover. And in the book it says, to maximize your body's efficiency in this state, your other organ systems get deprioritized. Your digestion slows down, your immune function shifts, ditto growth and tissue repair, as well as reproductive functioning. Your entire body and mind change in response to the perceived threat. So not only does stress physically and outwardly affect your body, but internally, other systems that are vital for your health and your life shut down because of it. Because the body realizes that right now it needs to shift its energy from being in one area to focusing on surviving, just focusing on living. And we learned about this in school, about how your blood vessels will, I believe, constrict in order to save your life. Potentially, digestion will slow down because it realizes that right now it is not worried about that, and that will later cause greater effects. And if you continue to go down this path of just burning yourself out, doing more than you can, your body is going to have lasting effects. There's a book called The Body Keeps Score. I haven't read it yet, but I've just heard that it is incredible in touching on that whole idea. And it's crazy that I'm already seeing that now, and I don't want to keep going down this path because, hey, I'm so young, I have a life to live, I have a future. But I understand that my body keeps score. Whoa. Sorry, there's kids outside while I'm filming. But my body keeps score. Yours does too. And if we don't recognize what it's trying to communicate with us, it's going to manifest in illnesses and things that we're going to have to invest a lot of money and time in later. But instead of doing that and waiting till disaster strikes, waiting till the worst happens, take time to look at your body and see what it's trying to communicate to you now. It is really trying to help you. Something that I've learned about my anxiety is that she's really nice. Like, she's really polite, and she doesn't like to bother me. She doesn't like to inconvenience my life by nudging me to slow down, because she knows that I can't always do that. But she does speak up when she needs to and when she absolutely has to. And I'm very grateful for her for doing that, because she's trying to keep me safe. I always imagine it as Anxiety and Inside Out. I will just never shut up about that movie, but truly, like, she's not trying to harm me or to cause any unnecessary stress. She's doing the best that she knows how, and she's trying to keep me safe. She's trying to show me all of the possible ways that things could go wrong, because she wants me to be prepared and to feel like I have some sort of control. But because I live in sometimes an unconscious state, I can't always realize that. So I'm very grateful for times where I get to pull back and be grateful and really admire her for all that she does for me. The book says that you have to do something that signals to your body that you are safe, or else you'll stay in that state, with neurochemicals and hormones degrading but never shifting into relaxation. Your digestive system, immune system, cardiovascular system, musculoskeletal system, and reproductive systems never get the signal that they're safe. And in the conversation of being in perpetual high levels of cortisol and stress and operating off of adrenaline, we are commonly not taught about the other part of that fight or flight situation, which is freeze. I like to think of it as the emotional mannequin challenge. It is really not funny at all, but I think it's a little silly title. The freeze state is what happens when your body assesses the situation, assesses the potential threat. It decides that you are too weak to fight, that you are too slow to run off and hide, and that the only way to potentially save your life is to play dead, to freeze, act like you are not there, so that hopefully the thing that is threatening you doesn't even see you and moves right past you. And we often think of this in the context of animals, but we experience this on a day-to-day basis, and if you're so go, you're probably not even going to realize that you're in this state until your body tries to snap you out of it and say, hey, knock, knock, wake up, you've been sleeping. You've been playing dead for a while. You're still living your life, but you're in NPC mode. You're in emotional mannequin challenge. You're frozen. You're paralyzed because you feel like you don't have the power or the tools or even the energy to move past whatever it is that is constantly stimulating that stress response. The book says that when you feel threatened, the brain does a split-second assessment to determine which response is more likely to result in your survival. Freeze happens when the brain assesses the threat and decides you're too slow to run, too small to fight, and your best hope for survival is to play dead until the threat goes away or someone comes along to help you. The book says that you don't have to know about freeze in order for your brain to choose it, but if you don't know that freeze exists, you may think about a circumstance where you were unsafe and wonder why you didn't kick and scream, why you didn't fight or run. Why, in fact, you felt as if you couldn't scream or kick or run. The reason is that you really couldn't. Your brain was trying to keep you alive in the face of a threat that seemed unsurvivable, so it slammed on the brakes in a last-ditch attempt to do that. Again, all of these things that can have negative effects on us long term if we keep going down a path of unconsciousness are really at the root just trying to help us and keep us safe, but it is because we pile on so much and we don't give ourselves time to be aware of them and truly be present in our bodies that it then manifests into something negative. So the symptoms that they described in the Burnout book says that you feel outside. And I wrote down a lot of symptoms that I was having during this time of freeze, not only just burnout, but on top of that, freeze, feeling like I can't move and feeling frozen in my situation and feeling really numb. And if you know me at all, you know that I'm a very outwardly positive person. I love that about myself, and I really try to hold on to that as much as I can. But when I feel really burnt out, I can kind of slip into these phases of just feeling very apathetic and almost like numbing myself out. I can feel very meh. And I've described that a lot, and I document my life all the time. I don't really upload it in terms of YouTube videos. I'm trying to get back into that, but I was rewatching clips of me just moving throughout. It's usually the winter months because I'm a very cyclical person, but just feeling meh, like there's no really positive upward slope. It's just very meh. But then I get moments like this where I am forced to slow down, or I'm proactive and I intentionally slow down, and then I'm like, wow, listen to the birds chirp. Listen to the kids laugh. Look at the kids riding their bike with their dads. I'm like, listen to the kids interrupting me recording this right now. But look at nature. Look at the sun shining. Look at the moon. Look at the moon. Look at the water. Look at just everything that connects you to humanity and reminds you that, hey, life is really worth living and it is meant to be experienced, not just merely rushed through. I'm getting off track. But some of the symptoms that I experienced were, and these are really specific, but I really hope that they can resonate and hopefully make someone that is also moving through burnout feel less alone, because when you don't really have the language to describe what you're feeling, you just think you're crazy. Like last year when I was describing this to medical professionals, mind you, medical professionals, people that are supposed to help me and have the tools to quote unquote fix me, which I don't think that's the right verbiage, but they tried to prescribe me antidepressants to numb it out. And I understand that for a lot of people that does work, and I'm really happy that that exists to help people. But for me personally, that's just not what makes my body feel good. I'm someone that needs to feel. And so we'll get into that in a little bit. But a lot of these symptoms, when you don't have the right language to describe really what it is at the root, just makes you sound like you're losing your mind and you're going crazy. Music sounded different for me. I would not be able to listen to my favorite songs, which again just made me feel further and further disconnected from myself, because music is an essential part of my life. Music is like air to me. I love it so much, and it just helps me feel less alone in this world. And so not even being able to enjoy something that I routinely do made me feel extra crazy. And what I mean by it sounded different, I would literally hear things different. And I know that that sounds insane, but I would put on a song that I've heard 100 times. I know it front and back. I know it like the back of my hand. I just know that song. I know the lyrics. There's no room for me to mess up on them. I would hear the lyrics differently, and in my brain, I don't know the psychological definition or explanation for that, but I know there is one. I would hear the sounds differently. The syncopation would be different. Lyrics that I knew wouldn't be there, or lyrics that I didn't here before or weren't there before would then be there. Like, just everything sounded different. And then the only other option would be to drive in silence, but then I'm like, well, I'm alone with my overwhelming, spiraling thoughts, so the problem still stands. I am hypersensitive to light when I'm in a state of burnout. I truly am literally like a vampire. I don't like the light, which when I am in my happiest, fullest, most vibrant self and my form and connected to my soul, I need the sunshine. Like, give me all the light, all the windows open. I literally need to sit outside like a little plant and soak up the sun and photosynthesize and get my energy from the sun, the natural source. So that is a big telltale sign that you are not like yourself if you are similar to me in the fact that you feed off of the sunlight. If you are trying to run away from it and repelling it, you're not yourself. I have a lack of body sensations when I'm feeling burnt out, and the best way I can think of describing this is, and this has happened in this specific scenario and the one from last year, but I would go to the gym, try to do my normal routine, my little Stairmaster warm-up, and that's a warm-up that is going to make you feel the burn. Like, that activates your quad muscles, and you're going to feel it. Like, that is pumping to the muscles. You're going to feel that mind-body connection. But I would be on the Stairmaster for 10 minutes, something that would usually make me sweat and feel the burn. Not too crazy, but enough to be like, hey, I'm moving my body, this is working. I would do that same thing and there'd be nothing. And it's not even like a little sensation. It's just like nothing. And that would freak me out. And during this phase last year when I was first having these feelings of anxiety that were new to me, I genuinely thought, and this is going to sound crazy to anyone that doesn't have health anxiety or anything like that, I thought I was like having a stroke or something, because I was like, I can't feel my body. And it was because I was in my mind, but those physical manifestations of your anxious thoughts are real. They are real. You are not losing your mind. That is real. Trust me, I've had it many times. That is real. And like, the left side of my body would be numb, and then I would have increased back pain and shoulder pain because I'm holding my stress in my body. Again, my body is keeping score and trying to hold on to it. And it felt like I was watching my body but not living my life in it. Similar to how the book described it, it just felt like I was outside. I commonly use the phrase of I feel like I'm an NPC, and I mean that to feel like I'm very robotic, but I felt that in the sense of I did not feel like a human being. I did not feel like I was being in my body. I did not feel the essence of my body, of my soul, the connectedness. It just felt like I was simply observing someone else living in my body. Yes, I was the one going through the motions, but there was no presence behind it. There was no intention behind it, and it was really hard to snap myself out of that. But what helped was being forced to slow the F down. And again, I don't think that it is possible or realistic for everybody to have long extended phases where they can just take time off from work. Unfortunately, I really wish we lived in a different world, but I do think that it is imperative that you find ways to give back to yourself, whether that is slowing down a little bit each morning and each night, just time that is to your own, where no one is expecting something from you, no one is pulling on your energy and tugging at. Okay, I apologize for the abrupt change of setting. If you are watching this, you can tell, but if you're just listening on audio, my phone ran out of storage while I was recording mid-sentence, so I had to rush home, and now I'm on my computer because the message was going to get out one way or the other. Need to invest in a camera. Right now we're just working with my phone and this Amazon mic. We're using our resources, so bear with me. I apologize. I'm doing the best I can, but where were we? Talking about burnout as my chest is rapidly getting tighter and tighter because I'm stressed, because I'm racing against the clock. But let's just take a community deep breath, okay? I want you to breathe in all of your air, hold it at the top for 4 counts. I can't really do this with you while I'm doing it, but hold it for 4 counts. And then let out a nice big exhale, slow. I'm going to do it with you. And at the top, I want you to take in an extra little sip of air. So you breathe in. Let's do that one more time. This is something that I do in my everyday life, whether that's in the car driving from one job to the next, from work to school, school to home, or just sitting in my car after any of those destinations, just to let myself know that I'm safe, that it is okay for me to feel my emotions and that my body doesn't have to hide them from me, and then that is going to later cause damage. I'm allowed to feel, and you do have to be conscious about sending your body signals that remind it that it's safe. So like I was saying, we're going to talk about rituals and routines that have helped me a little bit later in this episode, but it is so incredibly important for you to find little ways, whether it's just doing little mindfulness, breath work practices like that throughout the day, of just having time for yourself and where your energy is not being tugged on, and just reminding yourself that you deserve to give back to you. Before you are anybody else's, you are your own. And we forget that so easily, which is such a sad thing, because if we are not okay internally, there's no way we can possibly give from a full, authentic, loving place. When we help ourselves, we help the world. And I plan to do a whole episode about radical self-care just because I feel like I'm learning so much. So that at a later time, but that all interconnects and sprinkles into one another. So now that we've identified burnout, what burnout is, the stress cycle, identifying our stressors and stress itself, and free state, which is an undesired response that very often happens, how do we move through this? What do we do with this information? How do we put it into actionable steps? It is very important to understand that with all of these awareness things, another thing that you have to do in your mind that tries to keep you in this loop of go, go, go is reframing the way that you view rest. I had such a hard time doing this, and in so many of my journal entries, I would be writing that I'm trying so desperately to rest because it's what my body needs. But when I'm resting, my mind is running rampant. It is running on a treadmill 1,000,000 miles an hour. While I may be physically still, my mind is moving so fast, faster than I can even grasp, and that is overwhelming me. My body doesn't know how to rest, really, and I'm trying to teach it how to rest, and that comes with affirming it, saying that I am allowed to slow down. I do not have to abandon myself. I do not have to work past my point of safety and past my point of giving to a healthy level to earn rest. Rest is not something that I earn. It is something that I am inherently worthy of. I don't have to do, be, have, get, accomplish anything to be worthy of slowing down. And funny enough, I literally had this conversation with myself this morning because I got out of bed a little bit later than I wanted to, literally only 20 minutes. I set my alarm for 5:30 because I've been doing morning rituals, so waking up intentionally earlier to give myself time to ease into my day instead of feeling rushed, and I got out of bed at 5:50 instead of 5:30 today. And that internal dialogue of you're not good enough, you are late, so you better stop. You better just quit. You didn't do it perfect, so you better not do it at all, started coming up. And I had to actively affirm myself through my morning routine while eating breakfast, doing my morning journal, saying that I am allowed to slow down. I do not lose value. I am not less of a person. I am not stupid or dumb or lazy or unproductive by resting and slowing down. And I'm trying to find the page where I said it because it was from today's morning journal. Oh, yes. Some of the affirmations that I wrote down today just to try to help me. I am allowed to move from a place of flow, not force. I am worthy and valuable just by being exactly who I am. I am allowed to take things at my own pace. There is nothing I need to do or prove. I can simply just be. And at first, saying these things is going to feel like, okay, sure, yeah, I really believe you. But put it into practice. Take a minute to just not say the affirmation, but let it sit in. How does it make you feel? We become who we say we are. So if you constantly tie yourself to this one identity and you keep affirming that, whether it's in your mind or it's verbally, you're going to become that. For example, a really common thing that a lot of people do is saying, I'm a morning person, I'm a night person. Well, if you tell yourself that, you're going to become that. And I did not think that I was going to be the type of person who wakes up at 5:30 in the morning just to have me time, but my life circumstance, that is the cards I've been dealt, and so I'm making use of it. And I've started to love my mornings. I've started to love easing into the day and taking the day at my own pace. Whereas before, I used to take the day by my chaotic alarm that sounds like a fire alarm going off, waking up in immediate fight or flight, waking up in a rush, setting timers for my whole day, which I already have to have that as a teacher in general, just to keep me on track, but not feeling like my life is my own was a very common narrative and a common everyday occurrence. And so forcing myself to slow down and give time and slowness and ease at the start of my day is the least I can do. One of the only ways to heal burnout is to allow yourself to feel, but with feeling there can be a lot of external factors that get in the way of that. Hustle culture is a big one that creeps in, and that constant nagging to do more, to produce. And unfortunately, the culture that we live in, capitalism, is very, very, very focused on that. Consumerism, people are always trying to sell you things, always trying to market off of you or make a product off of you. Even with just content creation, people are always trying to do more with that. And you have to understand for yourself what you want, and two, be okay with taking it at a different pace than what is accepted. It is about getting out of your head and into your body, listening to what your internal needs are and not running from them, but instead get curious about what they're trying to tell you in the bigger picture of things. Because like we mentioned, like anxiety signals and Inside Out 2 and all of our emotions, they are trying to help us. Emotion breaks down to being energy in motion. That energy has the power to be transmuted into light or darkness, something lighter, something transformative, or something heavy if we ignore it. You have the power to choose which one you want to do. And that energy is begging you to feel it and tune into that frequency and let it flow through you. At the end of the day, you are a human being, not a human doing. I heard Pharrell say this, I forget what interview it was, but you are not a human has been, a human will be. You are a human being. That implies presence in the current moment. So find a way to retrain your brain and remind it that rest is productive and divinely essential and guided in your overall well-being. Just like if you think about an athlete, I'm immediately picturing Jared McCain. But even him though, like he has a morning routine. I've seen those YouTube videos. Trust me, I see them and I watch them. I know them well. He has a morning routine because that's essential to your well-being, not only mentally but physically. Athletes, they have their in-depth recovery routine. And a lot of times, this is a topic that the book talks about as well, but a lot of times self-care and stuff like that and more expensive, drawn-out practices like that are reserved for people who have money because it costs a lot to give back to yourself. But there are things that are free that you can do that give back to yourself and that help you feel your body. One of the biggest ones, and there is research behind this, and the Burnout book talks about this as well, physical activity. That is the number one way to move through your stress cycle. Getting out of your head and spiraling up here and getting your body moving that energy in motion. If you are stuck, if you are stagnant, if you are sitting still, not doing anything, obviously that energy is going to build up in your body and probably have an outburst in a negative way. But if you find ways to get out and move the energy through your body and move it in a healthy way, in a way that fills you with joy, doing different variations of movement, that is a way to move through your stress cycle and let your body know that it is safe to feel, and that encourages mind-body connection. The Spiraling Higher podcast mentions this, but moving at the speed of nature instead of technology. Moving at the speed of nature, not capitalism. You are more like a plant than anything else. You are more like a tree, planting your deep, deep, deep roots and then growing from down up, not just growing immediately. And I love the springtime. I think I love it more and more the older I get, because I realize that we are all just a flower that needs to be watered and nurtured. and we're going to have our different phases, and sometimes we bloom beautifully, sometimes we harvest lots of crops, and sometimes we don't. And that doesn't make us less than, or that doesn't make us a bad person. That just makes us human, and that makes us part of the process and inevitable journey of unfolding. And it comes in cycles. Just like plants, we are cyclical beings. We have periods where we need to go in hibernation, and we need to embrace our slowness. We need to sleep a bunch, store up that energy. We need to eat a bunch more than we did, eat different foods than we did, have different activities. And then we have periods where we do the exact opposite. And also, an added layer to that is being a woman. You have a cycle, which we won't get completely into, but your cycle is a lot different than a man's cycle, and you need to cater to those needs, which is something that I probably have not been doing correctly. I'm still figuring that out. So it's all a process, and the fact that you are here and showing up for yourself is enough, and that is proof that you care and that you're on the right track. And it doesn't all have to get figured out, and it won't get all figured out right this second, but it's a constant effort to figuring it out and trying your best, and that's all you really can do. This is something that I've recognized in my own life experience, but this was also mentioned in countless podcasts that I've listened to on this topic. Society does not value things that are not hard, things that are achieved from a state of flow, things that are achieved with ease, or that don't require you abandoning yourself. Society does not view that as worthwhile. And I'm always going back to this book. It is one of my favorite books of all time, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. She mentions how exhaustion is commonly used as a status symbol, as a way to assert your dominance or prove that your life must be so much better than someone else's, which is very ego-rooted, because ego is what perpetuates ideas of better, worse, winning, losing, and that is just a made-up concept. But it's so interesting just reflecting on how that is present in like my day-to-day interactions. People just asking like how you are. That in itself is another very NPC interaction, because we usually just say good, good. Okay, but are you actually doing good? Probably not, but you just don't want to inconvenience someone by telling them the truth of your real life situation. But a lot of times too, people will say, how are you doing? And they'll just say, I'm tired or I'm exhausted. And they'll just say, oh, that's the hustle, that's the grind. That should not be normal. We should not always be tired. We should not always have a life that we want to run from, always have a life that leaves us feeling more drained than alive, more drained than nourished, more depleted than full. That is not a life that I subscribe to, and that is not a life I want any of you to surrender to. You have the power to build a life that you love and that you want to indulge in, not one that you want to run away from desperately. There's a quote from the movie Pearl that I love. I journaled about it as well, and it's, I will not settle for a life I do not deserve. I think that's what it is. Close enough. But truly, you do not have to either. You are allowed to take the time, move at a slower pace, to develop a life that fulfills you, and a life that is truly your dream. Not the dream that you're sold, but the dream that you create. Hello, this is me the night before this episode comes out. I'm editing this right now, and I'm realizing I never finished an intro, or I never made an outro for this. I recorded almost 3 hours worth, so this is just a part 1 of like the Burnout series, and by series I mean 2 episodes, but this one is mainly just identifying what burnout is, stressors versus stress, identifying free state, and rewiring and building a healthy relationship with rest. In the next episode, which will be out as soon as I can edit it, it's going to be more so about the culture of numbing and how the only way to heal is to feel, and why that can be so painful. I talk a little bit about symptoms that come up with burnout, and also rituals that I've implemented that have really, really helped me, and I hope that will help you. Oh, and also, why are we rushing? We need to stop rushing, because the end is literally the same for everybody. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. I feel like this is a lifelong thing that I'm just going to be learning and unlearning, but I am very grateful to be on this journey and have this to share it with you, and hopefully these episodes meet your heart well and make you feel less alone, because that's literally all this is about. So I love you. Bring it in. Forehead kiss time. Mwah! I'm gonna finish editing this. I'm very excited though. Also, comment if you made it this far. 1, comment a tulip emoji because I'm staring at my tulips. And 2, comment if you like this new editing style that I'm doing. I am very, very, very inspired by Anna Howard, who does the Wild Geese podcast. She like really put me in touch with like the video diary side of myself because I love consuming those. I just haven't really gotten around to creating them. Video essay style of content. So I am very happy, and I think I'm going to keep doing this because I just have so many quotes that just take up space on my camera roll, but this is really helpful for like my brain to organize it and make use of them, you know? So I love you. I will see you when I see you.